Notes daily. I updated notes yesterday. I uploaded yesterday. Okay, the running note. We just completed the things what we learned as part of Spring Core module. We just understood again. Okay, we just revisioned yesterday in Spring Boot project setup. Okay, that's what we did yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to discuss about first of all constructor injection. Okay, and then we will see what are the things we have to take care at constructor injection. In annotations, we will try to understand. So we know that by directly how to initialize or a dependency object should be injected by a constructor. We know the points, but we will see when we are having extra constructor parameters. So how, what we have to do, what are the complexities we are going to get, we need to understand now. Okay. Okay, so it's created, project created now. So I'm just writing for two classes here to achieve the dependency injection again. And I'm making sure constructor injection package is following base package rule. And I'm taking an example like product. Sorry. So I'm taking a new class name here today. So I'm taking a details like customer is the class name. Okay, private string customer name. Private long contact number. I'm just creating setter getters for this. Okay. Customer created. So let me write down one more class. Bank account. So here, yeah, let me make sure customer also has a component. And inside bank account, bank name, private, string, branch, code, private, long, contact number. Okay, so along with this, private, customer, I'm taking, fine. So observe here, I'm writing a constructor now inside the bank account and I'm making this one also as a component class. Public and bank account. Okay. Customer is the property constructor argument I taken here. This dot customer equal to customer I'm writing. Generate setter getters for every property. Okay. So now tell me, now come back to our examples. So let's write down. So here configurable application context. Okay, if I executed now our Spring Boot application, how many accounts will be created? Sorry, how many objects will be created in the container? Two will be created. One is customer and second one is bank account, right? Now, in our current requirement, what we are trying to do, we are injecting customer inside the bank account. So that is what our requirement. We have to inject customer inside the bank account level. So what are the ways we know? Field injection as well as setter injection and constructor injection. We take a lot of examples about the field injection. So in case if it is a field injection, what you will do generally, you will give a auto void here on top of the field level. Now, if I give an auto void at constructor level, so is it going to be injected or not? So when you are having bank account constructor and you define how many constructor arguments here, only one constructor argument we define, and this is belongs to another bean object. So this is also a bean object or not? Yes. Now in this case, what is going to happen? Yes. Whenever bank account object is getting created, and whenever it will try to understand what are the constructors you return. So are we return default or parameterized? So we return parameterized constructor, right? So now it will immediately understands. Okay, for example, I will ask you one question in Java point of view. So you have this class. Okay, so if I given this code snippet to you, if you want to create the object, leave about auto void here also. So if I given this to you and you want to create a bank account object, so how can you create it? So I given this code snippet to you and you have to create bank account object in regular Java format. So what you can do, so bank account, okay, something like account equal to new bank account. So is this the valid statement? Why? So yes, why it's not valid statement in this specific scenario? Because we don't have any default constructor, okay, or zero parameterized constructor in our bank account class. That's why you are going to get this line is going to give compile time error and it will say like it will not allow us to execute. Now in case if I return like this, equal to new bank account. So is it a valid? No. Yes, because we return how many constructors inside the bank account? Only one, and that constructor is taking parameter of another class called as customer class, right? So what are the values you have to pass always to the constructor? Maybe customer object or a null value you can pass. These are the two possible values we have, right? Other than that, can I pass something like in double quotes delete or something like 1, 2, 3? That no. So the possible values are maybe null value or create an object for the customer. You can pass that account. You can pass that value also. So now see here. Bank account, okay, account equal to new bank account. Okay, so here I'm passing like new customer. So is it a valid statement now? Yes, this is also a valid statement. So what we understood from this example is when you are having only parameterized constructor and that too the number of constructor arguments you have, so you have to pass always mandatorily must and should every value for every constructor argument or not. For every constructor argument, do we need to pass a value or not? Maybe it is a default value or real object, whatever it is. But 100% we have to supply a value or not. For example, now if I given a constructor comma string, okay, something like bank name, I written like this. Okay, in this scenario, so can I, these three lines are valid lines? In the second scenario point of view, these three lines are valid lines? No. Only, I mean, leave about this, assume this constructor is not there, only this constructor is available now. Okay, only one constructor with two parameters. Now, is this the valid line? No. Is this? No. Is this? No. The reason is constructor, you have, whenever you have to execute a constructor or you have to create an object, so what we have to do? Must and should we have to pass values to the customer type as well as string type values you have to pass here. So that means now if you return bank account equal to new bank account again, and you are passing, so something like null or customer object, or maybe like you are passing Dilip like this. So is it a valid statement now? Yes. Because you are passing in place of customer default value null, and in place of string, you are passing a real string value, right? So now understand same kind of scenarios here also. So how Spring is going to do internally and all. So here what I'm going to do, let me get the bank account object context to dot get green of bank account dot class. Okay, so we are getting extracting customer object from the account object, and we are saying, so the dependency injection is going to happen or not? Why? So this example we already completed in previous session itself. We are not entered into use case. So in this case, what is happening? So constructor is going to the customer class object. So customer object is having any dependency? Customer is having any dependency? No. So customer object is created by the container. So customer object is created by the container. Now when it comes to the bank account component class, what it is doing? It is trying to create an object, but internally it observed auto while applied on top of one constructor, okay, constructor which is having parameter of customer here. Now what it will do, it will identify this customer type objects are available inside the container or not. Because why? You give an auto while, you are saying like please inject dependency of customer inside the bank account via constructor this time. You are doing what? Constructor injection. So then what it is doing immediately, it is verifying in the memory level customer object is available or not. Is it available? Yes. The same object is being referenced to the respective constructor argument level, and then it is creating object. Okay. So just like this. I'm just writing a source line here. Bank account equal to new bank account. Okay, assume internally it is passing bean ID. So the bean ID name is customer. So is it a valid statement or not? No. Yes. So this is how internally the container is executing the respective constructor. Here it is. So whatever the constructor you have, so this is how internally what it is doing. It is passing the customer reference to the constructor argument value level. So that's why the customer object is injected inside the bank account object. So is it clear until this point? So here we don't have any confusion, and there is no ambiguity for the, okay, internally for the container also, because you are just expecting only customer object with one constructor argument in the source code, right? So for example, if you have one more customer object, what you will do? You will use qualifier, right? If you have one more customer object, then how? You have one more customer object, customer 2, then which one has to be injected inside the bank account? So again, the same kind of ambiguity, no such unique bean. Definition exception you will get, expected one, found 2. So to avoid that, what you will do again? Set the right qualifier. So to create another bean object, I'm writing one more configuration class, or you can we write down bean methods here also? Yes, it's a Spring Boot application class is behaving as configuration class also. So it's internally derived from that. So public, yes, customer 2 Okay, now how many customer objects? Two will be there. One is customer two. Second one is customer two. Now see here what is going to happen. In the bank account point of view, we are expecting customer object should be injected inside the bank account object level, right? So let's execute this now. So what happened here also? A customer account is injected. How it is injected? Why? We have two, right? By type or by name? By name is taking. Don't say by type. Okay. Where it is taking by name? Here you given constructor argument. When we discussed about the constructor dependency injection in our Spring XML point of view, when you given auto where equal to constructor. So we have an option called as auto where equal to constructor inside the XML configuration or not. So what's happened in the auto where equal to constructor case in when we are discussing in the Spring level? How the behavior is happened in the constructor level? Yes, by type or by name. When it is having only one, by type is coming into the picture. So when it is having two, it's verifying constructor argument name is matching with the BNID of the dependency object. So now in this case, constructor argument name is matching with the BNID of customer or not. So one of the BNID is what? Customer. So it's now whenever it is having two, it's immediately coming to the by name case and it is verifying the constructor argument name is what? Customer. This is the constructor argument name you given. So this is verifying with the BNID of dependency object called as customer. Yes, both are matching. Then out of two, the respective customer object is injected or not. That's what. Please remember the old concepts. That's why I told yesterday. Okay. So now customer is injecting inside the bank account or not. Is there any confusion? No confusion. So if you want to make sure the container getting confused, then what is the code change you have to do? So what are the possible ways if you want to create an exception, the ambiguity exception, where I have to make the changes? One is I can make the change. I can rename the constructor argument something like ABC or invalid. Which is not matching with the BNID of customer. Or else, so let's do one thing. I'll keep that as is. Here I will make small. It is giving customer one. So now what is the BNID here? So now in this case, how many BN objects will be created again? Two, and one is customer one. Second one is customer two. Now dependency injection. Yes. So what happened again? Same ambiguity problem, right? So customer one, it expected only one, but it now found two. Even it found two, it is verifying by name nature. So by name nature is BNID of dependency object is matching with the constructor argument name. So constructor argument name is what this time? Customer. But BNID names are customer one and customer two. No BNID is matching. So by type is failing, by name is failing, and then it is giving us an exception. No such unique bean definition exception expected when, but found more than one. Like that, you are getting the exception. So in this case, what is my point here? It is auto while the auto void annotation is really behaving as a constructor or also not. So what we discussed in the Spring core module configuration point of view, auto while equal to constructor. So the same behavior we are seeing in the annotations are also not, right? So that's what, even in annotations also someone else is asking how auto while is happening, whether it is a XML or, annotations, how auto while is happening in how many ways? First one is none. So that that's what I know the reason. I'll come back to that. So even though how many constructors we have here? One constructor it is having, internally it is checking for the dependency of customer again. So we will come back to that later. Now assume I remove this. Now dependency injection is going to happen. So what is this? Null. Null means auto wire equal to none. So the option auto wire equal to none happening here. Now when you given auto wire equal to, okay, auto wire and you are using combination of qualifier, it is we are achieving by name or not, right? And when we are having only one bean object, okay, without qualifier, can we achieve the dependency injection or not? Whether it is a field or setter or even constructor also, the auto wire is working as a by type also. Even if you constructor also, when you are dealing with the constructor dependency injection, when we are dealing with the constructor injection, in this case, it is performing by name, I mean auto wire equal to first of all, constructor. Constructor behavior it is performing, but in the constructor point of view internally, it will validate by type and by name. When only one object, it will be injected. When more than one is there, then it will observe at least prop constructor argument name is matching with the constructor argument name is matching with the what? Yes. Bean ID of dependency object. So in this case, constructor dependency is failing or not? Because we given customer 1 and customer 2. Now if you want to make sure dependency injection should happen with the source code, same whatever we have with customer 1 and customer 2 bean IDs, then what I have to do? I have to use qualifier here. Only thing is when you are using the qualifier, here you just need to use qualifier. When you are declaring auto void here, but qualifier here before the constructor argument, you just need to define qualifier annotation here. Now, qualifier annotation where you have to use? Before the constructor argument. So now customer is having how many bean objects? Yes, 2. You guys are not practicing. These are all discuss of things only. Okay, so total 2. Now qualifier I given in front of the parameter level, constructor argument level. So I'm just giving customer 2 here. Now are we going to get this exception? I mean ambiguity problem. So very clearly, when customer is having more than one, you are saying like please inject customer 2 here in this case. Same scenarios. But everything is happens via constructor point of view. Now dependency injection is happened or not? Okay. Now in case if you don't want to give qualifier again, even one default bean object should be injected without any exception for customer, then you can go and depends on your requirement, you will make one bean object declaration as a primary, then that will be injected here also. You just try that. Okay. So now this is fine. So until this, okay. Now let's do, can I create one more constructor in the same class or not? How many constructors can I create in a class? We can create any number of constructors, right? Maybe the number of parameters you are having based on that, you can define 1 parameter constructor, 2 parameter constructor, 3 parameters, 0 parameters like that. Now in this class, how many properties I have? Total 4 I have. So what I am doing here it is, it's better to take a new class. Okay, so let's do one thing. I will keep this example as it is because for your purpose only. Otherwise, I have to delete couple of things. I'll take one more thing. Quickly product, and I'm just taking something like orders as a package name. I'm not taking much properties here also. And this is also a component class. Assume you are having properties X also here. Now my point here it is, when this object, I'm going to create one more order class when it is having more than one constructor arguments, and out of those constructor arguments, if you are having string or integer values, then how constructor injection is going to happen by default? What are the things we have to take care and all we have to understand now? That's the point here it is. Product is added. Okay, so fine. New class orders and at the rate component this one also. Now I'm making private integer order ID, private string user name, private double amount, private product. Okay, so I'm just generating setter getters first. That's fine. Now see here what I'm doing. I'm creating a constructor with all the parameters. Okay, and I'm making sure at the rate auto void here. So how many constructors I have in my class now? Only one constructor, and that constructor is having how many constructor arguments? 4 I have. Integer, string, double, product of types I have here, and this constructor has to be executed, and then order object has to be created, and inside the order it has having a dependency of product here. Okay. Give me a second just. Okay, I'm creating one more bean object for the product at a time. You know that. Okay. Context dot get bean of orders I'm taking here. Okay, so see here. Now just you need your core Java knowledge when I'm asking the question. Get product object. Is it really injected or not? Okay. So just concentrate on only orders and products, leave about account and bank account. Now in this case, what is my expectation here? It is product object should be injected inside the orders. That's fine. Now if I given this code snippet to you in a Java perspective, how you are going to create object here? So if I given same thing to, if you have same logic in our Java perspective, leave about auto void everything. So if you want to create object for the orders class, what are the ways you have? How many ways you can create the object? Can I create something like orders O equal to new orders? Okay. So can I create like this? No. Right? So similarly, can I create something like 1, 2, 3, comma, and username is Dilip and followed by. Okay. So can I create object like this? No. The reason is constructor. The first rule what we know in the Java, number of constructor arguments should be matched to the number of values what you are passing. At the same time, the positions, first argument should be integer value, string value. And even though you don't have these values, what you have to do? You have to pass the maybe default values or whatever it is, or maybe you can pass the, default. Now is this a valid statement, right? So that means can we pass partial constructor argument values to execute a constructor? So that means only two parameters I can pass. So that these two values 1, 2, 3 and delete will be injected here. Taken in this position, and these things will be taken as default values by default. Like that we have any behavior in our Java? No, right? So that means mandatorily when you are executing orders class, you have to make sure passing 4 values must and should or not. So whether it is default value or real value, you have to pass always. Now in the same perspective, when you are expecting dependency injection in the orders point of view, so with respect to product, is it having objects? So now we assume IOC container is executing this constructor. Okay, IOC container is executing this constructor internally. But at the same time, when IOC constructor is executing this constructor, what about the values of order ID? What about the values of username? What about the values of amount? What about the values of product? So with respect to product, container is having values or not? Yes, it is having. What it is? Bean objects. How many bean objects we have? 2 we have. One is product, comma, product 2. Maybe it will apply the concept of by name, by type. But anyway, constructor argument name is matching with the bean ID. So this bean object will be injected because of auto wait, right? That's fine. But then what about, okay, product wise it is finding the values. Then what about the order ID? What about the username? What about the double of amount value? How can we configure these values? First of all, dependency injection is happening or not. So see here, our order object is creating or not. Understand here. Save all changes. Okay, if you see here, the error, let me copy paste. Same problem, whatever we discussed here. Even container has to be provide 4 values mandatory or not as per Java rules. So see here, parameter 0 in the sense, which parameter 0? So parameter 0 in the sense, which one here? Order ID, yes. Index starts from the 0, right? Okay, fine. Now see the error. It is saying application failed to start and it is unable to create orders. The reason is parameter 0 of constructor inside class called as orders required a bean of type integer that could not be found. So that means it's simply saying like it need a integer value here. It need a integer value here. Now how can you pass integer values or maybe string value, or similarly if you are passing integer then it will look for the string value, then it will look for the double value, then it will look for the product value. So then what you are going to do? So how you are going to pass values to this constructor? So in this case, Spring Framework provided an annotation called as value annotation. Okay, so this is a annotation Spring provided here. By using this, by using @value annotation, we can configure or provide default values for the constructor parameters. Not only this advantage we have with the value annotation, we have other advantages of with value. I will come back point by point. Okay. So in this specific constructor injection point of view, if you want to pass a default values or real values, whatever it is, for constructor arguments or constructor parameter level, we need to take help of which annotation? @value annotation. So as part of @value, we are configuring real values, which has to be placed inside, which has to be passed as constructor argument values. constructor arguments. So see here how we are going to configure the @value annotation in this specific scenario. Understand. So so for integer value, so let's do one thing. Okay. So in this case, what I'm doing, I'm using @value before the constructor argument of integer @value. Okay, @value I'm passing here, and how you are going to pass value here? It is inside the double quotes. You have to pass the integer value here. So now you can pass any integer value here, but inside the double quotes, the value you have to make sure as integer value. Internally, it will take as a string, and it will what it will do? Yeah, parse int it will apply, and it will try to pick up it as a integer value in the background. But you have to make sure inside the double quotes, like in XML file also, when we define property ID inside the value double quotes, we used to give always 1, 2, 3 numeric values. If you given non-numeric values, what you got? Format exceptions you got or not? Same scenario here also. Now, similarly, okay, if I given value for this order ID, then what about the other values? So it's like, can I create a constructor or can I execute constructor of orders by passing 1, 2, 3 comma product? No, right? So you need to pass values for the username as well as amount also. Mandatorily, you have to pass 4 values. Otherwise, what is going to happen? Let's understand again. Same error. This time it is saying like parameter 1. It is shifted. Now it is saying like, okay, parameter 1 is good. What about the parameter 2? So now what you have to do? Define here one more value here also, like delete, whatever you can give. And similarly, @value, the price value you have to give here. Okay, so some price value I given as a double value. Double value you have to pass here. Now, guess here, are you passing all the values to the constructor arguments or not? One is integer you given here itself by using @value. One is you given here itself value, @value, fine, @value, fine. What about the product? Where you given the product details? Yes. Internally, it will compare how many bean objects available for the product. Product is a bean or not, first of all. Yes, then immediately it will verify how many bean objects available. How many? 2 we have. But even though 2 we have, so immediately it will observe constructor argument name is matching with the bean ID of the product object or not. So in this case, is it matching? Yes, because we created component class and the same name we given there also. Okay, so bean ID is matching with this constructor argument name. Now the respective product object will be injected or not? Yes. Now dependency injection is going to fail. Order object is going to be created or not? See here. So what is this? Order's point of view, order is created or not? Even product is injected inside that or not? So now, product 2 I made. Now is it going to happen dependency injection? The problem here it is this time with the product. So you given product, total 2 bean objects available, but by name point of view, bean ID of, constructor name, constructor argument name is matching with the bean IDs now? No, because I renamed it as product 1 now. I renamed it as product 2 I given, right? So let me give product 1. There I given product 2, right? Okay. So anyway, total product 1, product 2 we have, but constructor argument name is product here. So is it going to match? No. So dependency injection is going to happen, or order object is going to be created now. So same problem, it is saying like product 1, product 2 it found, there is no single bean with that. So what you have to do now? Yes, exactly, qualifier you have to use. Now go and give qualifier here. So that's the purpose, you are passing qualifier here. And you're as part of the qualifier, bean ID you are going to give product 1 or 2, whatever you want to inject here. So that you are going to give here. Now, any confusion, anything else? No problem. Okay, everything is good or not? So this is how the constructor injection you have to pass the values. Now, so is it clear until this point? We will discuss couple of use cases about value annotation. Not only this purpose we will use @value. We will use some other purposes also. I will come back to the scenario. Okay, so until this you guys are clear why we have to pass 4 values mandatorily. Is it the Spring rule or Core Java rule? Core Java rule. So when we are defining Java, when you have only one constructor with n number of parameters, it's our responsibility of passing n values or not. to execute that constructor. So that's why even when you're doing in Spring dependency injection point of view also, if you define a constructor like this, you can pass directly default values by using @value for our wrappers and our primitives, maybe string data type also we can pass directly values by using @value here. So this is all about the constructor injection here. Any confusion with constructor injection now? We covered wrappers, string, primitives as well as the other data types like product. We completed everything when you have more than one bean object also. But let's focus on @value annotation. It's very important also. Not only this purpose, we will use @value and we will use other purposes also the @value. Now, for example, I'm giving a concept. I written a component class. Earlier, you guys asked one question. Sir, is there any way can we pass default values to the component object or not? Some real values to the component object or not. For example, I written public class, okay, employee, I written. Okay, here assume I have properties ID, name, something like salary. I have these three properties, okay. Now, whenever object is created for this employee class, object is going to be created or not? Because it's a component class. Now, in the object level, what is the begin ID? Employee. And what are the values? ID equal to default value 0. Name equal to null. Similarly, salary equal to, assume it is a double. Salary equal to 0.0. Give me a second. Okay. So now in this case, our requirement is the object has to be created with component for the employee class. And I want to make sure, okay, somehow the ID equal to 100, name equal to something like Dilip, and salary equal to, okay, some salary I given here. So you have to make sure the values are initialized like this, even though the object is creating from the component class. So how we are going to do that? For example, assume tomorrow you are writing a class called as @component class DB connection. Okay, you return URL, username, password of your database. Okay, so generally every time database URL, username, password values are same values, are going to change every time, every second, same values, right? So you can assume now your requirement is DB connection object has to be created. But generally, as of now, what is the values? Assume 3 are string values. So URL equal to null. Similarly, name equal to null. Password equal to null. This is how the component object will be created for this. Now, in case by default, I have to pass values of URL equal to something like localhost. Okay, 1521 something, the story, whatever we have. And username point of view, my user ID is Dilip and password is also Dilip. So I have to make sure these details are initialized inside the object called as database connection object level. So how we are going to do that? When object is created from the component, that is what the concept here it is. Okay, so @component I written here. URL, username, password. Okay. So setter getters. Okay. See this at the rate value we have in Spring also. Only okay. So it's not like here only. You can practice at the rate value in Spring also. Okay. Now in this case, what I'm doing, I'm writing a class Spring value demo here, and I'm taking main method class here. I'm not taking the previous examples and all. So can I create our own container here or not? Yes, we can do that if you want. Annotation. Config application, context. It's better to take a new project. Okay, I will take a new project for values. We have a couple of scenarios also to discuss. Anyway, it's very simple in Spring Boot. Okay, I have created a new project now. Spring value annotations. I'm going to create a new class now. Dot database something. And I'm moving this package. Okay. So simple. I just created a new class, database details here, and I have a Spring Boot application here. Now tell me if I get container object here, configurable application context equal to. Okay. So can I get DB details object or not? Context dot get b now. DB details dot class. So object will be created for this or not? Yes. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so DB details, DB data, something like that. I taken here also. Sys out of DB data dot get URL, get username and password. Now, what are the values will be printed here? Yes. Okay, this is all we know. So what happened? In the container, DB details object is created or not? Yes. So it's created, but only thing is it is making URL equal to null, username equal to null, and even password equal to null. This is all we know that. But my requirement here it is Spring is providing a flexibility. Even though object is creating from the component, whenever an object is created by the component annotation for this class, these properties, maybe one or two properties or all the properties depends on your requirement. Okay, you have to initialize with some real values. Then what you are going to do here it is, here also you are going to use at the rate value annotation. So let's give the at the rate value annotation here. So I'm just not giving all the URL details, localhost 1521 something like that, :xc, whatever it is. And in the next instance variable level, at the rate value I given. And again, same, what are the value you have to configure here? So let's give your username. Similarly, at the rate value I have to pass, and I'm making sure providing password also here. Now, what is going to happen? See here. Okay, let me execute with the same value annotation. See, the value annotation is simply what it is doing now. Wherever you use at the rate value annotation, whether it is a property level or constructor argument level for the string or wrapper classes are integer values, what it is doing? Simply container is picking that value internally and that is storing as part of our wherever you declared. Now you declared at the instance variables level. So this value is storing inside the URL level or not? Yes. So that is what internal, it's kind of dependency injection or not? I mean, can we say with respect to wrappers as well as string data type or primitive data types, can we inject the values? Yes, you are injecting the values. If it is something like a reference type, like data type belongs to user defined class or predefined class, then how you are using, which annotation you are using? At the rate automate we are using. If it is a string or integer or wrappers, I mean string or wrappers or primitives, then what is the annotation help you are taking to inject the values? At the rate value annotation we are doing. So now tell me, in component level also can we inject the values or not? Instead of default values, when you are having a requirement, by default some values has to be injected. Okay, along with the reference types, you have to inject values inside this string data type or wrappers or primitives. Can we do that or not? How we are doing? With the help of at the rate value annotation here. So now in case if I not given value annotation to the password, then what is the value of password? Null value. That's all. It will feel like, okay, there is no value for the password. It will take internally as a null value. So that is what you can use at the rate value annotation on top of any primitive or string data type. For example, if it is an integer field, what is the one thing you have to take care? Only thing is passing integer values here. That's all you have to do. Or else I can add one more property also. Private, okay, integer, number of connections, something like that. Total at the rate value. So what is the value I have to give here? Can I give something like this? Okay, it's an integer you given internally string value. So you're going to get formatting exceptions. Anyway, let me execute now this. You are not written any setter getters to print. But anyway, let's execute first. What happened? Number format exception you got. So only thing is inside the double quotes, you have to make sure which value you are passing based on the data type. Now, if I given 10, so it is going to inject 10 value inside the number of connections or not? Yes. Only thing is we are not printed. Even let me write down that one also. Source to generate getters, setters for that field also. Now let's print here. So you guys are clear with at the rate value now? I'll take one more use case for same again. Okay, 10. Is it going to printing or not? Yes. So if there is a ArrayList object, then how can we use at the rate value? Yeah, I will come back, Sujit. Okay. So there are some representations available at the rate value point of view. So you just need to pass values one comma, another one, something like that. There is some representation. We'll come back. So before that, we need to understand few other points also. Okay. Now that is also fine. Now assume this type of way, generally what we are expectation, URL value is injected with this original value called as localhost 1521 and all, right? So generally these values will be called as, I mean, we are trying to inject this value into this property, injecting this value into this property. So in case if I maintain these properties as part of these values as part of the properties level, can I get those properties by using at the rate value annotation or not? That's not the point. So only thing is, so instead of keeping database values inside the Java program level, in a real-time project, generally what will happen? It's recommended to, in a real-time applications point of view, it's recommended, means you just need to follow. Otherwise, your code is going to fail. No, it will not fail. Recommendation is nothing but better solution point of view. It's recommended to separate configuration data from Java logics. Okay. So that means maintain config data separately and access data from there. So maintaining separately from, in the sense, maintaining as part of properties files, all these things. Okay, this is what the concept here it is. The reason is tomorrow the same database details object, okay, being used in multiple places and you're going to get it from the container, that's fine. Your password is changed from Dilip to ABC123. So instead of this kind of things will be called as hard coding the values. Hard coding the values means directly passing values to the parameters level or properties level is all about to maintain this kind of configuration data as part of our Java logics level, and you have to make sure those data as part of a separate configuration files. Properties file will be considered as a configuration files. So for example, my URL details available here, localhost. The reason also I will tell you 1521 XE, okay, URL username equal to, and I'm giving something like Dilip, password equal to Dilip, okay, and I'm going to give something like contact, one more property. I can define any property in my properties file, contact dot email equal to dilip@gmail.com, something like this. I given properties here. Now in this my scenario here it is, I already have, I configured property details inside the properties file, database details inside the properties file in the combination of key value pairs. Okay, now assume these database details are being used in 20 classes. Assume 20 classes you are using that data. So if you are going with this approach, instead of properties file approach, and you return 20 places like @value localhost 1521 like that, how many classes you return? 20 Java classes, like assume 20 places you return. Now tomorrow your password is changed from Dilip to ABC123. Okay, so assume this is Dilip. Okay, now password is changed from Dilip to ABC1234. Dilip to ABC1234. Now tell me in how many places you are going to make the changes. 20 places, you have to identify the 20 places, and 20 places you are doing changes or not. You are doing 20 places, same changes, right? So instead of that, if you are keeping these values, something like URL, something like username, and something like password as a variable representation point of view, and you maintain in a centralized location URL equal to localhost colon 1521, okay, username equal to something like Dilip, and password equal to Dilip. You maintain in the second approach. For example, one developer, I mean, this is the first approach, this is the second approach I given to you. Okay, now in this case, in 20 places, you return code like this. You return 20 places. It's better. Okay, so now in 20 places, you return code like this. Here, instead of all these details, you mention URL and something like user name and followed by the password. Now, this is how you are using same 20 classes. Okay, another person taken this approach. 20 classes you made like this changes. Now tomorrow there is a password change happened from Dilip to ABC1234. Now how many places you are making the code changes? Yes, that's what. So only one place. Assume now same data being used in 200 places in your entire biggest Java project. Then how many places you are changing the database details? You are centralizing at one place and you are making changes at one place. So automatically, is it going to reflect at every area wherever it is being used or not? So now which solution is a better solution, first solution or second solution? So that's why in real-time applications, we will try to make sure these kind of configuration data, these kind of values, every time as part of a configuration files separately, that means in a centralized location, And from there, we will try to access data into our Java logics level. So tomorrow, what is the advantage of this approach? The maintenance of the application. Maintenance of the application is getting easier or not? If it is 200 places, how much time you are going to spend it? You are going to spend one day. If it is only one place, you are just making change at one place. In 200 places, it is reflecting whatever the latest value you given here. So in this case, now same approach if I have here, okay, I will keep this value as it is. I'll write down something, one more class, DB details 2, second approach point of view. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm removing hot code values here and everything. I'm going to make sure at the right value. Okay, now I'm writing one more class called as DB details 2 here. And this time what I did, I configured my URL details, assume like database.url, db.username. You can give key names like this. Okay, every word is separated by the dot symbol. Generally, when you are configuring inside the properties, the naming conventions are every word should be separated by the dot symbol and the entire key should be in the lowercase. Generally, that is the approach people will follow. User.name, something like that you can take. Okay, db.password. Okay, or you can take like this. Now you have configuration data inside the where? Properties file. So what you can do is, you are going to provide these values or these values. These keys you are going to configure as part of our source code level. Now see what I am doing. At the rate value annotation only I am using. But here one thing is, what you have to make sure inside the double quotes, it's not like you are passing direct value here. Okay. So let's do one thing. DB data 2 approach, details 2. Okay. Okay, so now what is the output you are going to get in this line's point of view? What is the URL you are going to get? What is the value you are going to see in this sysout? What is this? You are seeing same thing, db.url. Only thing is, when you are configuring properties as part of the properties file, and those things you have to get it from your Spring Boot application level or Spring application level, you have to follow your syntax here. So what is the syntax here? It is at the rate value, okay, inside the double quotes, dollar symbol followed by the curly braces, and inside this, you have to pass key name. You have to pass the key name. So syntax. When you are going to take this approach, the data has to be, okay, collected from the properties file, application.properties file dynamically, and that value has to be injected into our bean object level. Then what is the syntax you are going to take? Inside the double quotes, if you are giving something like this, then this value is becoming as what? Direct value. It's not like value, it is considered, it's not considering as a key from the application.properties. If you given a syntax always like dollar symbol followed by the curly braces, then internally it is understanding, okay, this is not a real value. I need to pick up this value key name, and this key is available inside the application.properties or not. Okay, then if it is available, then I have to inject this value inside this property level. So whatever the property you written like, property name you are going to write down, right? So inside this property, it is going to inject. So you are getting the point here. So now in this case, what it is doing with this signature, it is taking this key name, searching key name inside where application.properties file, and if available, picking the value and then injecting. Yes, good. Okay, if not available, then it will take it as default value on. Okay, let's see. If not available, then we will give wrong value and we will see. For time being, what is our key name? db.url, db.username, db.password. Okay, let me go to the database details too. So what we have to do here? Inside the double quotes only, dollar symbol followed by curly braces. Okay, inside the curly braces, what you have to give? db dot URL. So the key name, what you specified in the properties file. Okay, so this is all about instead of hard coding, soft coding values. That means you are making configuration at one place and you are injecting those values from here. Now see here, what is the output you are going to get with db URL point of view. So what is this? Yes, this is the value collected from where? Application.properties. This is what the syntax you have to follow here. So you guys are clear with the @value annotation now? So by using @value, we can pass, for example, assume this value you want to pass hardcode value. Then what you have to do? Value of directly passing the value. So you can do that. Or if you are feeling like this value is already available in the properties file or you are configuring in the properties file, then you have to go with this signature, dollar symbol signature and all. And here database dot user dot name. Similarly, now the same approach can we use in the constructor level. Earlier example we given constructor @value of 1234 @value of delete, something like that. Now can you give @value of dollar symbol and something like key you configured in the application dot properties and just try in the constructor injection, it will work. Okay, so database dot db dot password. Okay, now see here, I am executing this example again. So what's happened here? You are seeing data from the application dot properties or not? Okay, tomorrow, now see, even I am going with this approach in the second class also. db dot URL, db dot user dot name, password. So it will improve the maintenance. Now see, in here also you are going to same data or not? In both db details and db details 2, everywhere you are going to see common data or not? Okay, localhost delete. So tomorrow if you want to change your password, assume the password is changed for some reason, security reasons. Okay, yeah, it will be called as placeholder only. Okay, security reasons. I mean, generally passwords will be changed frequently in real-time applications also. Every 2 months or 6 months, some password policies will be there. So you have to make sure from Dilip to ABC1234. How many places you are making now? Only one place, but it is going to be reflected into bean objects or not? Yes. See here, that's the advantage of taking properties ABC123, ABC123 you are taking here. That's the advantage of configuring, centralizing the properties in the configuration file, and those properties you are accessing via @value, and this you need to follow this syntax, and it is called as placeholder in the sense this place is going to replace with the key of value of that respective key which is available in the application.properties. Okay, so that is how you can use @value on top of any primitive data types or string data types wherever you want to inject a default value. Okay, wherever you want to pass a real value to the string or primitives wrappers, what is the annotation we have now? @value. If it is a bean objects, @auto-void. Now in any class, someone else tomorrow, if anyone else is giving ABC class, okay, something like string, integer, double property, okay, boolean property, and something like given XYZ type, okay, PQR type. So can we perform dependency injection with this all types or not? So if it is, assume you have to pass a value here, @value, @value. When it comes to here, you have to pass XYZ object, PQR object inside the ABC object. So @value or @auto-void? @auto-void. If it is having more than one, qualifier. If it is more than one has to be injected, primary. So that is how you have to make sure your practice. So I'm okay. So with this, most of the Spring Core, with this Spring Core module is completed. That means the common across Spring versus Spring Boot. Spring Boot is all what? 90% Spring and some small extra features they given as part of the Spring Boot level. So what we are going to do tomorrow is, I'm going to discuss value we are done now. Okay, constructor injection also we done. Bean lifecycle, yeah, this is also common as part of Spring point of view. So we will see Spring, Spring Boot. Only this concept is pending. I will take this tomorrow.